Hey, welcome to Freak Out Friday. Yeah, Freak Out Friday in a bike shop. Hi, I'm Justin from No Guy Bicycles, and thank you for hanging out with me in my garage. And we are going to talk about several different topics today, some that are listed actually in the actual title as well as the description below. But we are also going to venture off into a rabbit hole of the state of the industry. Yeah, it's gone a little crazy and sideways for the last year, and we are going to talk a little bit about that. But how is your independent bike dealer, bike shop, guy in the garage like myself, navigating on a Friday, the Friday the 13th, by the way, in March? Wait, didn't we just have one of these? Oh, there was a February Friday the 13th. Anyway, Friday the 13th has a significant personal meaning to me. We got married on Friday the 13th in 2013. So those here locally in the Fort Collins, Northern Colorado area, we had a severe weather event, which basically made Fort Collins an island. We had a flooding event on our wedding day, which half our guests going to show up. So anyway, Friday the 13th is interesting in itself, besides the movies as well personally. Any case, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for joining me. 65 Bud Nut, welcome. Good morning to you too. Today is, in my environment, really smoky. We have pretty significant forest fire that is in Nebraska, our neighboring state. Seems like the smoke has moved into the Front Range of Colorado. Therefore, our air quality is super bad. In other words, I've been kind of choking and so forth. What that means to you watching this, I'm going to try to keep any kind of coughing and all that. I might have to mute myself if I need to, or drink extra coffee and take extra breaks. Any case, that is also something to keep mindful of those here locally. If it's this smoky, this contaminants in the air, please don't go out and exercise. That will actually damage, and it's not good for you at all. I think comparatively, if you I think back in the day, in high pollution days, if you run like 5 miles is equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes. There's a lot of contaminants in the air right now, so that's just a kind of warning. So any case, thanks for hanging out with me. This is the time of year where it's been really, really dry. It's been really nice days of riding, but we're actually now going to be paying the price of that due to the fact that the drought or the lack of moisture of keeping the local foliage from catching on fire basically is really dry like a tinderbox. So that being said, that has hindered a lot of business over the years in the past, especially here when you have those particular forest fires. This is a grass fire, I think, in Nebraska that's causing a major disruption. But in any case, well, hey, that's Colorado, but we're going to try to, put a positive note on the Friday because, hey, guess what? I'm going to CABDA next week. What is CABDA? CABDA is one of the bike shows that are currently in play in our current market. They have 3 shows across the United States. This is their last one. They have one in Chicago and another one on the East Coast. And it's pretty small. It's not huge. It's not massive, but it is a great opportunity to hang out with other bike shop people, check out brands. I went last year in Las Vegas. It was a lot of fun just hanging out and just, seeing what it is after all these years. And booking in that with MBDA's decided to do a conference 2 days prior to that, and they did it with the other ones. And that's going to be entertaining. I'm going to be going on that too. So I'm going to have 4 full days of just bike stuff. I'll be trying to create some content for you for my channel and so forth to give you insight with the back scenes and, looking and leveraging those partnerships that I've already acquired, as well as looking for new ones, of course, that kind of thing. I think in our state of the state is best not to be isolated. It's good to reach out and realize you're not alone going through your hardships, your changes and successes, and able to share those. I think we're in an environment where a lot of shops are starting to pare down, not do everything. Reason being is there's the lack of market of those particular sectors of the business that was decent is now not so great. Therefore, they're really pushing to just focus on certain aspects of their business. Hence the persnickety market of bike shops, because you may go to your shop and your shops may have already converted to certain aspects of the big umbrella of the cycling industry and kind of just cut out that piece of pie, or cut out that piece where it makes more sense for their shop, their staff, their ownership, and all those things in between. For example, like my shop is mostly road oriented and older bikes. Then you have shops like Precision E-Bike, Josh, all he does is e-bikes. So we're smaller shops and we leverage each other. Therefore, we're not alienating customers when they come into our store. Like, do you work on e-bikes? Like, sorry, I don't, but I know somebody that does it really well and they're going to take care of you. As long as you have an opportunity to redirect somebody to a shop that's, I would say, within the same caliber of your own, or you have that experience as a customer walking into the shop and like, sorry, we don't really do that, but we have a place for you to go and they're actually going to take care of you. That really helps. And a lot of people are becoming more understanding of this because cycling is so big. There is shops that do everything, not needless to say, and they do it really well. But the other shops are starting to branch off and doing these more subset styles. And this has been kind of a recurring thing going already. But this is where we're kind of, hopefully we're not presenting ourselves being snobbish, like, oh, we don't do those. But in the sense like, oh, I'd love to help you out, but unfortunately we're not, whatever the case may be. Or you find a better experience when you go to this other shop. Not to say that we're letting our guard down on competition and that kind of thing. Of course, there's always going to be that, but we're in such an environment now that we need to really embrace those who are in our same market and help each other out, because we all are going to need each other to help us navigate through what we're going through currently. The state of the state, talking to other industry leaders, people who've been around a long time, have been a part and actively engaged within the cycling for decades. We have not seen anything like this before. It's just nuts. And we're all trying to adjust and redirect our businesses to help our communities and become more community-based businesses versus we're just for profit, money grabbing bike shops, that kind of thing. In any case, one of my partnerships with a wheel company is really been helping me basically provide better products for my customers and opportunities, and also give me ability to have inventory when inventory is all weird. But they also do sell the customers, the direct to consumer, but bike shops can leverage these guys too. This helps with bikes like this Gem, which we're going to talk about behind me, this classic Schwinn Reynolds A53 tubing in a minute. But this is something that I've been working with, and I'm pretty proud of these partnerships I've been acquiring or being part of. It's like a family here. I'm Justin from Anoa Guy Bicycles. I've worked in the industry for over 35 years, working for old classics to also new bikes. And when I come across a particular situation where a bike needs a new wheel set and used is not quite an option for me, I go to Bicycle Wheel Warehouse, where they actually make and custom build wheels. In addition to, they have stock wheels for your vintage or newer bikes alike. They do have some that are actually rim brakes, so you can match up that old rim brake particular piece, like this Klein behind me, or these particular ones can be converted also into disc. They also have a variety of through axle options for the newer rides out there of today. And the quality and craftsmanship is what really draw me to them, because they use the classic version of wheel building of the back in the 90s, where we used to build wheels by hand all the time. Tension spokes, attention to details of prepping the rim, and also true right out of the box and ready to go. This particular set is a nice gem to go on this particular ride. Hopefully this gives you insights if this particular company will provide wheels that are going to fix you up for your new ride, your current ride, and your next upcoming project. Thanks for hanging out in the garage with me. This is definitely approved by the guy. And if it's nice in your neck of the woods, please go for a ride. So yeah, we are all in a boat now that we're going to be seeing this shortage of inventory. painfully it is. It's going to hit, or it's going to be a lot more expensive. So the surplus of inventory that a lot of companies that wholesale a lot of products for us bike shops have had a lot of inventory the last couple of years, and now it's going to be scaling down. And when those companies are reordering, bringing product in, it's going to cost a lot more, which is going to, they have been absorbing a lot of the price and the cost right now, but it is going to escalate 10, 15, 20%, which you've already seen in some aspects of the industry. Well, that's just going to get even more hairier and weird. Reason being is we're at the lowest levels of imports into the United States, record lows in a long time. In other words, a lot of companies aren't bringing inventory into the United States. Therefore, that shortages are going to start being seen within 3 to 6 months now. And unfortunately, it's going to be at the height of our bike season. So when you need that specific chain or tires or bike, it may not be there. Or if it is, it's going to be significantly higher in price. Not to say there's stuff still on sale and there's still a surplus of certain inventory. So like, oh yeah, Justin, there's like all this stuff that's still on sale. Yes and no. And it's going to continue to go that way in a weird, bizarre fashion. But a lot of bike shops are going to be leveraging the service aspect of their business, which is one of our watchers, Aaron from Go Guava out on the East Coast. They have actually leveraged their service department, is actually bringing in about 70% of their business now, or something like that, which is significantly higher with the traditional norm of bike shops, which is usually between 5 to 10% of the general income of the bike shop. So when those bike shops are pivoting and switching to that model, which a lot of them have to do, there's going to be kind of a big change in your sales floor, or all those things. And thinking about it being Persnickety, and the title of Persnickety, this came from a conversation with my wife. Persnickety came from the point of like talking about crops, right? And when I was thinking about this crops is like your wine, right? Those in California vineyards, right? Even if you don't know or drink wine, you'll know if you're in California about the wine industry and how it all works. Well, or partially. So the perspective here is we're investing into our communities now, and I alluded to this in prior podcasts, that we're laying the groundwork of recapturing our community, bringing more of a warm hug to those who are no longer trying to knock down the intimidation factor of bike shops, because the big corporations made concept stores of our industry in the early 2000s, which kind of made it a bad stigma for a lot of markets, and that continued through a couple decades, even through the corporate stores. So I mean, a lot of the corporate stores, Trek Specialized, Pond stores, Mike's Bikes, whatever they're using, you walk in, all you see is $15,000, $10,000 bikes. That deters a lot of general people because we're all suffering some economical struggles and so forth. And alluded that even with gas prices going up, I'm not going to get into the politics of that or what have you, but when the gas prices go up, usually people turn to other forms of transportation, bicycles. Not necessarily, it sort of cuts out and weeds out the inflated prices, and you're just like, oh, it's nice out, I'm going to go ride my bike to work or for exercise or run errands and so forth. Or they start looking into that, compounded by job loss, compounded by other consumables like eggs, milk, and all that have gone up too. So a lot of households are struggling or preparing if they have not already been affected. Case in point, we've been affected. Therefore, a second car may not be in our cards. We have to let go of that because of the payment in addition to the insurance and all that things. A lot of people are preparing to scale down. And depending how much fat you have within your own budget, you keep cutting and hope for the best. But we're all nervous, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna change. That's one of the major problems of our market is we're not seeing any light in a tunnel. Therefore, when you're looking at bike shops, and if we survived, those who have survived last year are still hanging on in a hope and a prayer to get through next year, they're going to be leveraging things that actually work in their market. A lot of markets are going to be leveraging service. A lot of markets are going to be leveraging used, and or get other brands. So you walk in that bike shop, it may no longer be a big brand store. They may carry a couple other brands because those particular brands are going to fit with their kind of redirection of those bike shops. So yeah, it's a lot to think about on a Friday, but cusp of this going right into the CABDA, where I'm going to be talking to a lot of the bike shops, vendors, and various others already, with those conversations being in play going into it. It's going to be a lot more of that and a lot more detail. But in any case, there is hopefully a silver lining to this. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger concept. So if you adjust, get the right staff in place as bike shops, if your bike shop local to you is, even if a corporate store did close, hopefully that provides an opportunity for another either shop or a venturous individual that wants to give it a go, open up a bike shop in your neck of the woods to help support your community. And that those are the things that are going to be constantly changing within the next 2 to 3 years. But a lot of bike shops right now have been hit so freaking hard that they're not thinking of the 2-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan. It's just not in the cards right now. They're hoping to survive next year and this season, and working with their vendors to try to provide, not inflated pricing and so forth, making sure they have the right inventory to support their communities. And as avid cyclists, you're going to have to, unfortunately, take a beat and go, okay, I got to be a little bit patient more on either service turnaround or parts coming in and so forth, because it's going to affect all aspects of any business, not just the cycling industry. So, and a lot of people I think are going to be already kind of in tune. I mean, not everybody lives underneath a rock. So, and that being said, that gives us, a little bit of understanding. But bike shops, please don't take that advantage of that perspective, because you still need to go over and beyond. It's no longer good enough tune-ups. It's no longer good enough to get by on service or sales or any of that, because the flip side, the people who are walking in, majority of them, the other 80-90% of us, are going to be really watching our wallets, not buy extra frivolous things. We're going to only buy what we need, not what we want. That's what we're looking at inside the United States. So if you're watching from outside of the United States, that's probably very similar to what's going on in yours, because it is bleeding out globally, but it is weird. It's just, unfortunately. So that's what, my perspective and how I'm kind of preventing, jockeying my position a little more forward-facing, local customers, that kind of thing. That being said, we've been really busy here in Colorado due to the fact of a lot of the warmer temperatures in January and February, which is great. A lot of service work, already prime pumps, but I really didn't have a lot of downtime to do the projects I was hoping to straighten out and get ready to go. And kind of, those are the couple of months. Regardless, you do want the cash flow to come in, but on the other hand, you want to prepare for the season. I'm basically caught with my pants down going into the season. I mean, it's just like, I'm not even close to ready. Reason being, and you're like, why are you, this is what you do, right? And it's like, I've already been doing this, I've been service and all that. It's like, my business has already been jockeyed position in what our current market is, which is really good. But there's still things that I'm trying to elevate in either better service practices, partnerships, all those things. So it's just, those have been a little bit harder to kind of fit in. And those meetings have been cutting in time to actually work on bikes and look at, invest, research other opportunities to help by people with bikes and do some rides and that kind of thing. So needless to say, I'm kind of freaking out a little, and taking somewhat 9 days out of work, be able to end a shop and going to a different state and try to work on those connections it's a big investment and a risk. Back in the day, you would have to go to the bike show, like in the 90s. So you don't have as much internet connection, direct to consumer and all that stuff. I mean, or B2Bs was really, you had to go to the show to work those partnerships and so forth. And even then, we would only go every other year because it was so costly to go, and hotels and all that stuff, and take time away from the shop and all that. We skipped a few during the course of having Parker bikes, but nowadays it's different. It's so different. It's so crazy different. In any case, fill in, ask some questions, jump in the chat, what have you. Keep the conversation going. 65 Bug Nut, thank you for chiming in. Yeah, a lot of farmland is on fire, and that's what's causing a lot of smoke here. So if you catch me coughing or something like that, or at the mute. And yeah, we did have a small evacuation fire here yesterday, but it was a little further north, and it was contained pretty quickly, but the winds were horribly whipping. King and 7, listening in from work. Thank you. Hope you're having a good work day. Hope your weekend's ready to jump in and have a great weekend ahead. In any case, bike shops that are surviving in 2026. So yeah, I talked a lot about service and a lot about used. And let's just take a hot minute and take a look at this bike, this Jim right here. Hopefully you can see it in the frame. So you to leverage the used, there's a lot of people have opportunity to work through Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, or even eBay to acquire used products. Bike shops, they can do trade-in events and that kind of stuff to leverage enthusiasm. And there was a company called Trading Guys back in the day, which was not too long ago. I don't think they're around anymore, but they were a separate entity than bike shops, and they would have promotions where you bring in your stuff and trade in, and they give you store credit for the shop that are doing the event at. A lot of bike shops have been utilizing that concept the last year. So friends at Wheel and Sprocket have been doing like a lot of trade-ins or bike swap type events, doing that kind of thing, or used bike promotions, which I'm pretty sure they're going to continue to do so. So you're going to see a lot of the used markets being leveraged. Reason being, it's great because it's upcycling products that have been sitting in people's garages. It's put a lot of bike shops where they would say, no, we're not going to do that, because that just doesn't seem to be a fit, which is now a fit, because anything going back to the industry talking heads, they're saying anything over $1,000 is a dead market unless you get into the 10 to 15,000, where that's a very small market, and most markets don't have that customer base. So going back to the used can provide you opportunities for a shop, or as well as customers. You're like, well, I can't afford a new bike for Johnny, but I can look for a used one and get it tuned up. And therefore, you're going to be finding a lot more bikes on sales floors that are used and refurbished and ready to go. This is a prime example here. Obviously, you got to have an eye of what you're looking for, or something of that nature, or some guidance per se. But this is a Schwinn steel frame, but it's the high-end Reynolds tubing, built in 1999. With Ultegra componentry on it, which is the second level down from the top of the line. And this is a 2x9. So this was primarily a steel race bike back in the day. And to leverage something like this, I mean, this one's going to need a lot of work, like cables and housing, bar tape, new tires, chain, a full tune-up and detailing. A grommet for the bottle mounts missing, so I'll have to press in a new one there, which, most bike shops have those kinds of things, or you can pick it up on Amazon for a grommet or rivet installer, not too expensively. So something like this, and this is basically found in a barn. So this is a barn sale, has a lot of life still to it. I have acquired a couple of these and refurbished them and fixed them up. And the profit on something like this, for example, you buy it for, let's say, this case scenario, I would, really leverage the lower price of the spectrum. But when you're looking at something like this and, you put a couple $100 into it, honestly, this bike, it could be a nice, ready to go, well machined for any kind of riding for road, and still keep you under $500 for retail. So $500 second down, top of the line, older componentry. It's kind of like a no-brainer. And some bike shops, they'll maybe since they have a sales floor, they may be able to put the margins up a little bit higher. But for yourself as a just avid cyclist, and you want to just grab another ride or whatever fits your needs, this is something similar that you can really look for and put some effort into it, clean it up yourself, or you have your local shop do their magic, and lo and behold, you have a bike that's a nice high-end steel bike, which quite honestly, some of the newer versions of these are in the thousands, like custom steel Reynolds tubings. A lot of those bikes are pushing about $2,000. Granted, it doesn't have electronic shifting, or it may have, different, doesn't have a wheel width restrictions to it, and not a disc brake system with wider wheels, but it still is a great road bike. And you can get this with adjustments and fittings to be fairly comfortable for most people riding, but fit is foremost first. So you want to make sure you get the right size of the bike of that particular brand. So don't just assume that you fit a 58 in all brands of bikes. I ride usually a 58, but a 57 is what I fit in a Le Mans, maybe even a 56 in some other brands. It all depends, because all our bodies are a little bit different. And to make it more complicated for you, the consumer, as bike shops know, all brands have different fits to their actual bike line. That's what makes them, one of the things that makes bike brands unique to themselves. So one bike is like shoes. One bike brand might fit you a little bit better, like Asics fits me a little bit better than Saucony, as in shoes go, or New Balance or Nikes. And if you're an avid runner or what have you, you'll know that it's not necessarily that you are drinking the Kool-Aid of that brand. It's just they fit. Bikes are the same way. The Le Mans bikes just fit me like a glove. So I know that if it's a 57, whatever vintage of it is, it's going to probably fit me pretty well. Case in point, I got a red gym over there at Buenos Aires that I'm going to be doing a featuring whole video series, or a couple of videos on restoring it with paint and ceramic coating and all that good jazz, and got some wheels for it and that kind of thing. In addition to, I got another carbon one, which is my size, but it's going to be basically refurbished to resell. So I am definitely leveraging the used market to resell and provide good quality priced bikes, parts, and frames to my community, which a lot of shops are going that direction. But I've been doing this for years. It's nothing really new to me, but I got to be careful. Even then, have to be really careful because of the current market. Certain full bikes will stay for sale for a lot longer period of time. Therefore, service is definitely going to be upfront foremost importance for my business, as well as a lot of bike shops. But I've noticed that a lot of bike shops have forgotten one big major thing, including myself. How do we leverage our service department? Yeah, you got your team, you got your training, you got your availability, you got everything inside the box, like the four walls, right? This is where we're having there's one thing that just occurred to me. Now, I thought about it early during the fall, but I got distracted and derailed by other projects. But like, I'm talking to my front end dev, which is a buddy of mine, which also worked in the cycling industry, and he built my website. And I'm like, Jack, we really need to refresh my service page. I mean, we really need to refresh it. That should be like the biggest focus point of my website right now. You land on there and you're easily navigating where to do service and so forth. And I thought to myself, like, oh man, I totally missed the boat on this. I mean, I need to be working on it. So I'm like backpedaling because I've been busy with service and all this and everything else. like, oh, I gotta help my buddy lay out because I have a concept and I have like different layers to it, and I want to make it really nice. So if you put the effort into it, this is probably one of the times I'm going to really put a solid effort into it and do a workflow and all that. And I have examples from other industries. I'm like, this would work really well for the bike industry, or at least for my website, because I'm all appointment based. I need to have the customer able to identify what kind of service package would be best for them, all those things, right? I mean, make it easy lift for them, easy lift for me, and everybody's a win-win. This is what I've been leveraging for the last 5 years. And yes, my page works fairly well, but I look at it and going, could be some improvements here. It could be a little bit easier, a little more identifying, all those things, right? And lo and behold, I'm like, oh, well, I wonder if my the other shops have thought about this. And looking, and not to say they may be working on it, but a lot of the shops, I look at a lot of their like laundry list of services under the service tab, where it's going to be majority of their growth and where they're going to be focused in, was forgotten. So all those who are watching us at bike shops, like, revisit that service page, talk to your dev person, see if there's anything you can do before the season hits, to do any kind of adjustments to make it easier for your community to identify and either make appointment programs or anything like that, for them, because that is going to be a very helpful tool, as well as all these tools behind you, to help your service department keep from going insanely crazy and upside down. Not to say there's shops that have, but at the handful I did pick and looked at their service pages, I'm like, we need to do better. I mean, we've done so well with like selling direct to consumer parts or communicating events and all that stuff, but that part has been kind of, it's always the redheaded stepchild. Like, I'm redheaded, I can say that. And I was a stepchild. So anyway, only person I'm alienating is myself. But yeah, the website on there is like, oof. So yeah, switch hats, switch gears, lay it out, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's been kind of nuts. It's yeah, and I'm kind of excited because what I have in the planning stages is going to be very helpful for somebody that lands on my service part and go, oh, this is the bike I have, this is the service I need, identifying the condition, and then this is what is suggested, and this is a timeline to put it in, and then I can do an appointment, and saves me time and money. They know what they're going to be paying up front for the most part, do the estimate when they drop it off, like if there's anything that needs to be addressed, and kind of thing. Not necessarily upsell, I'm basically just suggesting things to make the bike some preventative, yes, but most likely at the end of the day, trying to get them the best experience possible. And for the tune-ups that I've been doing for the last few years on bikes, a lot of my customers have come back in 1.5 to 2 years instead of the once a year tune-up. So the tune is actually lasting and holding longer. And these are people that actually ride pretty regularly. So those tunes are holding for a longer period of time than when estimated. So that's great. That's a value prop for myself to leverage, and bike shops can do the same thing as well. So it's a golden nugget there. But yeah, nuts, right? So yeah, it's all about service. Check your nuts, apply lube, and ride hard. As the coffee cup says. In any case, hopefully in your neck of the woods, it's getting ready for spring, doing some riding. We're about there ourselves. But we could have a cold snap that would change everything. All right, good question there. 65 but nut. Would you ever take apart a trigger shifter that was sticky, or just replace it? Okay, so sticky shifters, either like these, the STI shifters there on this guy, which I'm going to be trying, because one is like, it's like when you push it in, it's like a slow retraction. Or if you got shifters like this, like the trigger shifter for mountain, So the thing with these guys is they have, when they were manufactured, they have the Shimano grease in there and it's injected, and it's like that fluorescent green stuff. And that fluorescent green stuff over time hardens. And when that hardens, it kind of, or it does, prevents the pulls and the latch system inside to engage and hold or go back and forth. The simple, inexpensive way of doing to see if you can flush it out to become actionable again, run it under, well, this one you want to take the cable port cover off so you can expose, or I wouldn't say take the whole shifter apart because it's kind of like a watch spring in there, and I've attempted to try to do that with some, and just, it's a hot mess. But if you want to remove the cover to expose more of that ratcheting system on either shifters, you can. Just be careful not to go too deep, and because you'll be popping springs or what have you. So looking at this guy, when you pop that open, flush it with hot water, like underneath the sink, depending on how hot water your tap is. You can flush it and just try to cycle through. That sometimes will in itself melt that sticky goo mess inside there to help ratchet it through. What I do is I have an ultrasonic cleaner. I have it at temperature about 50 Celsius, but you got to be careful because the coloring might get discolored if you do a high temperature, or you do lower temperature and you try to squirt some like carb cleaner or brake cleaner inside there, cycle it a little bit if you can, and put an ultrasonic cleaner to help kind of disperse any of that internal gunk. And then after that, I flush it with the hot water. And I've had pretty good luck. I've had about 80 to 90% of the shifters have come back to life. Like this one was sticky originally, and now it engages and comes back to life pretty well. So that usually is the case. I would suggest the hot water. If you don't have ultrasonic cleaner and all the heavier degreasers and so forth, try the hot water trick. That might flush it all out. And here's the thing, once you get it to start engaging, what I use is Triflow Superior Lube, and like this guy here. And I have the drip version. You can drip inside there for the paws to re-lube those. Also, they make a spray foam version of it. So I use the spray foam specifically on the shifters themselves because it shoots in there and kind of gets in all the little parts, and I cycle it through and they come back to life. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, this is a GR9. This is 25-year-old shifter, cleaned up really well, and it shifts like a champ now. So yeah, you can do that, and that's what my highly recommendation is, to get those shifters to come back to life. If they don't come back to life, and it's through ultrasonic cleaning or degreasing or trying the hot water treatment a couple of times, they could have just worn out at some point too, unfortunately. But I'd try that first. And then the shifter set like this, like the Ultegra 9-speed 2x3x, you can find that are some that have been refurbished, like I do sell mine online, or either eBay or on my website and that kind of thing. There's other companies that do the same thing, quite a bit of parts too, way more than me. And you can find a set of shifters that are vintage, basically meaning it matches the exact componentry group for about $100, somewhere on there, 115, depending on the state of this condition they're in. And then you can match up exactly. You can go the route and do what was it? Microshift is the other brand that made a lot of kind of retrofitting shifting mechanisms. When Shimano and SRAM stopped making them, they would go in and make partner shifters that would work for those particular drivetrains. And that's where a lot of the bike shops would knee-jerk and go to Microshift as a replacement. It works. They work, and they're cheaper, but they're not as nice. And they are kind of clunky. They have their own line now, which is actually pretty decent stuff, which is their upper end stuff, which is a good price point break for like gravel bikes and some other things. But if you're like this, Ultegra, and you have like the early 90s, early 2000s, I'm sure enough you'll be able to find any of the parts here somewhere that's been refurbished and match. And that, therefore, I implore a lot of bike shops, when they get a bike like this and has a bum shifter, check out eBay, do what estimate cost of how much you'd labor for you to look for it and bring it in. I mean, it's still going to be either cheaper or the same price of the new, but yet it's going to match exactly. So you're going the extra step for the consumer, your community. So versus like, oh, you got this ugly looking shifter that obviously does not match the drivetrain or the vintage of the bike. That kind of knocks the wind of the sails of the excitement of a classic bike. Let's put it that way. That's what they're doing with that. 1981, my opinion on ice cream. I like cookie dough. But I'm not, I don't judge. In any case, yeah, great question on a technical note, and especially when it comes across like gyms like this, and especially if shops are refurbishing bikes to put on their sales floor. I implore you to try to match the parts up, not just try to leverage a cheaper off-brand to make, because it's going to be easier for the person to sell the bike when the componentry is original-ish on that. Or elevated so it actually enhances that used gem that you may have found. And there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of cool ones. And bike shops have a great opportunity because they know a lot of the the issues that we may have had over the years when new and coming across. Well, one is the paired spoke wheels from Bontrager, which I have on another bike here. The bike doesn't look like it got used very much, but sure enough, lo and behold, hairline cracks and so forth. Got a wheel set from Bicycle Wheel Warehouse to put on that kind of thing. And also something like this, you might want to, definitely going to need a chain. But if you're going to look for a chain, this is a great segue. Looking into a chain, you might want to look for a chain that is pre-waxed or the shop at pre-waxed. But if it's somebody that's really into like triathlons or special events and wants some speed, there's different ones of different blends of different waxes out there to help to increase the wattages. There's been tests and all this. It is proven, and it does work really well, which is awesome stuff. Which these guys, or this guy, Bill from Vital Bike Chains, he has chains in stock, SRAM, KMC, and Shimano, and he has options that you can pick from Speed Wax, Endurance Chips, or other brands of Silka or Black or various others, to whatever you want to do. So he's probably the only one that's doing the extent of the different blends. Most bike shops won't go down that rabbit hole because it's so much the effort for the return that they're going to put into it. But this is opportunity if you wanted to try one of those speed chips and so forth. Check these guys out. Very popular chain process or waxing of Vital Bike Chains provides brand names like Shimano, SRAM, and various others to be cleaned in high detailed 5-step process and then waxed to your professional level with either speed chip or endurance chip, which has been proven to have better performance and better lasting events and recreational riding. Takes care of the messy process, and all you have is the clean wax chain ready to perform. Check them out. Discount code with a link below. So keep in mind, like wax chains, some people are not into it. It's fine. You can still do your drip loops, but the testing we've seen, the waxing has been pretty good. This is another example here. This is not a too old bike. This is like 10 years old. I think it's a 15 or 17, something like that. I have a list on my website. Just refurbished this and decided, instead of parting it out, I decided to fix it up. And this particular model, going to case in point of bike mechanics or bike shops have been around for a while, have catched on some issues with particular bikes during the rain. And, some failures you don't know until a couple years later. It doesn't get caught by any kind of recall or what have you, that kind of thing. First and foremost, the Bontrager wheels with the paired spoke, not these, but the ones with the paired spokes. A lot of those did fail by the drive-side spokes by the rim bed. It's just a higher tension on there and they just start cracking. Kind of hard to see. It's kind of like you want to make sure it's in direct sunlight and so forth to check, that kind of thing. But that's one thing. And the wheel sets for a lot of those older vintage road or mountain, you can get those new for like 300 to 400, somewhere around there, which are going to be pretty good, well quality. Best Wheel Warehouse, they hand build a lot of their wheels, and so you got a lot of attention to detail there. It's kind of a change of the industry. You're seeing a lot of companies that would sell specifically to suppliers that bike shops will get those. Well, since suppliers are not buying the inventory to fill their warehouses with those particular brands, they're no longer cutting. So that puts those companies like Muck-Off, Silka, various other ones in a pinch where they have to sell directly to consumer. But also they do have portals, or they're starting to work on portals for bike shops. So basically you're cutting out the wholesaler and you're just getting the products direct, which means the prices are a little bit cheaper, or at least a little more leeway to work with it. So you take out a middleman. So the wholesalers indirectly are basically doing it themselves by doing such a thing. But is to say, some companies, this has kind of been a changing of the environment, and in itself, it's what the new norm is. But in any case, back to that is, companies that I've been trying to work with do B2C or B2B, and they did go through wholesalers, and now they're, they have good products and they're just trying to get it into customer bases and so forth. So anyway, back to this particular bike. This is a Damane, which is their comfort bike, has a little ISO thing in the here by the seat post to make it more comfortable, more flex to it. But, it doesn't matter what Kool-Aid you're thinking. But, I've worked on shops when these were new. And this particular one has 3 things to watch out for, even though it's a newer bike. And unfortunately, this one was kind of stacked against itself. 3 things you got to look out for this particular model is, number 1, it has the 11-speed crank system. 11-speed Ultegra and Dura-Ace have been under a volunteer recall, which means if they fail, you get a new crankset from Shimano. They suggest taking these into your shop, Shimano dealer, to be inspected and registered every 6 months. Okay, a colossal pain in the butt for the consumer. But on the flip side, though, if it does fail, you get yourself a new crankset. And there's no deadline on this. So if it happens now, or if it happens from 5 years from now, you're going to get a new crank. That's the good part of the scenario. The bad part is they didn't do the recall until after 3 years, after more than 3 years of the production run of the products that were going on for about 8 years. So there's a lot of cranks out there that need to be identified. If I remember, I'll put a link below with the Shimano, but you can go type in Google Shimano recall Ultegra, and boom, you'll find it. It's on Shimano's website. There is identifier numbers or cute numbers on there, letters actually. You need to identify to make sure it's the specific one, and then take it down. But needless to say, if there is a failure or if there is a crack notice on there, you'll get a new crankset and get new chain rings. So yeah, you get a newer drivetrain. So that was not specific to Trek. That issue was not for sure. And this other part was specific for Trek. This one has a press fit bearing system for the bottom bracket. And the bottom bracket crankset, if you can see, is in here. What do they call it? A BB something, right? I'll have to look it up. But the bearings on this guy, it's kind of an oversight on an engineer perspective of it. They're press fitting into carbon versus press fitting hardened steel into steel to hold it in place. So they have a fix for it, and it's the V2 bearing. If you pull the crankset out and the bearings go bloop and fall right out, that means that carbon's been compromised. They have a bearing that has a bigger fit to it. I believe, I'll have to double check, I'm not sure, but I think what was it? Wheels something. There's another company that does a lot of retrofitting pieces to fix stuff like this. Wheels Manufacturing, that's the name of the company. And it's not just all wheels. It's like they have like hangers, they have bottom bracket inserts and all that. The big company solving problems from oopsie-daisies from engineering oversights. So any case, the V2 bearing assembly, this one, I had to get a new bearing for set because it was kind of crunchy, but it was still pretty pressed in tight. And I was able to get the newer set, which they have a nicer bearing for it. So that's the second thing you need to work through on a bike like this. The third and foremost is, I would say, the most serious headache, and it took me a few figures out to figure out what the hell is going on this particular one. The Ultegra, shit, what's the number on this? It's the FD 6800. Yeah, 6800 11-speed rear derailleur. Okay, so here's a little show and tell if I can get a cable here. So these guys, they worked out of the box. In other words, when we put them together new, they worked fine-ish. Over a long period of time, the wear on these didn't hold up. And the problem is, this is the original Ultegra derailleur that was on this. And if you see the Ultegra derailleur here, it's a little different design. It's 11-speed, but we'll get to that in a second. This guy is a shorter cage, and I'm putting an old cable through here just to give you an idea. And if you can see where this lines up, and let's relax, just in the relaxed state, the cable angle from the barrel adjuster to where the pivot or where the anchor bolt is at a really sharp angle. Like it's taking the cable and just like make it like a kink into it. Well, lo and behold, the sleeve here that's from the manufacturer, which is embedded inside, eventually wears. And this one's starting to wear. It's starting to have a little hole peeking out. You can see the cable a little bit through it. Once this breaks off, the range of the adjustment of this derailleur is almost impossible to adjust. It'll adjust fine on the lower. Then we get the upper, it's off. And we get it off and down. It was a design flaw. They anchored it, too much of an angle. It ends up kinking the cable over a period of time. And it's also a flex point where it's sharp. So eventually, if you flex metal too much back and forth, it's either going to break or fray or be compromised. So yeah, the resale on these are like $10. You can find these all day long because everybody's gotten rid of these if they're smart. Most mechanics have come across the conclusion, and now they had a newer model. It's a little bit longer cage. This is a shorter range one, but it's a longer cage. But the pivot pinch angle of the cable range is a lot less aggressive. So they changed the angle on that, so it's a little more correct. This is a newer design, which they've been copying even today. So with about $100, you can upgrade to a brand new Ultegra, which I found at Universal Cycles. They're varying price, but that's where I found this one. And they do, keep in mind though, there's a longer cage version of this. So if they want to do a wider range, you got to make sure you get the wider range one. I think this is the SS, which is the standard cage, versus the GS, which is a little bit longer range. This is a 28 tooth here. So it comes with a little kind of housing piece, and you put a new cable on there, and you get this derailleur. This thing now shifts like a dream. So if you're a mechanic and you come across, see this derailleur in 11-speed, you can go, $100 upgrade is going to save you as a mechanic a whole lot of less stress, and it's going to get that bike to perform way better for that customer. And $100 lift on an Ultegra bike to make it perform how it's supposed to, actually be elevated to be a little bit smoother, it's definitely a win-win. So when you're looking at used stuff and you're refurbishing that for yourself, either for your personal, even on the older bikes, that's where a lot of bike shops, if they've been around for a while, will have that just general insight, which will help their, their community or those that come across. A lot of these things you won't see as in recall listings and so forth. Like the cranksets you will, but the BB you won't. And this rear derailleur, hell no. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to rely on that old timer that's been around in the bike shop for a while. And like, oh yeah, we came across those and we found a fix for it, whatever that may be. It's out there. Not necessarily with their best efforts. The companies, like this particular one got a triple whammy of an issue. But not needs to say, a little bit of work, $40 bearing set, the crankset been inspected, and a rear derailleur. Parts though are still within under 200, and with a tune-up, it puts you about 400. So if you find a bike like this, you can still keep it under $1,000-ish. And it has a lot of the same newer technology bits, except for the disc brake system, if the cable actuated. So in any case, and I did put a nice wax chain on there. Makes it, gonna make it smoother and that kind of thing for shifting, and also did ceramic coating on the frame. Who here has even heard about ceramic coatings, and who here has actually used them on their cars, or if you do on your bikes, chime in, let me know. I think it's a newer thing for the cycling industry. There's a couple of companies that are leveraging that, which I've been doing ceramic coating on bikes for a couple of years now, but it's all the auto industry type stuff. And I did have a really interesting, fun conversation with Bicycle Armor, which is brand specific to cycling industry, which I think they're branched into it in 2019, and it's like stripped down, new frames, put this hardened shell, it's H9 ceramic coating. A lot of shops have been leveraging that for like the high-end bikes, that kind of thing. It's a high-end bike shop, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of different products out there that, you don't have to go that extreme, but it does really help shedding of dirt, and basically makes it a lot easier for the consumer to clean. In addition to, it adds UV protection. The wind tunnel thing, that's not going to save you any speed because it's super slick. It's still too slow of a rate unless you go on 40 to 60 mile per hour, which the majority of us are not going to do. But the saving qualities of the ceramic coating saves your paint, and it makes it easier to clean and get all that gunk off, especially in the gravel scene and as well as mountain bike scene, so that kind of thing. But anyway, there is it's like another little layer of uplift. But I mean, if you got yourself a really nice paint job and you want to not have it fade, or also give a love to your bike, the little polishing and so forth, which is also good because that helps you identify any issues you may have come across, like any damage or anything from a crash from a mountain bike or whatever. But it's just, it's one of those things that's kind of fun to do, because I've been doing like tune-ups for 35 years now. So getting into something fun and different and learning about different products and the chemical compounds and all that, it's really intriguing. It's exciting for me to get into something like that. And now I started it when it's right at the beginning of it. So it's kind of cool to be at the beginning of something and going, hey, let's see where this goes. And the prices on some of those hardener, like the really high-end hard ceramic coatings, like $150 to $200 for a little bottle of it. So I really haven't gotten that extreme. I've been using the spray-on versions of it and doing stack layers, which would, give you a lot of that kind of quality. But I was just kind of curious, of those out there, either house shops have been dabbling into the ceramic coating or detailing their frames. Is that some service that your customer base may be interested in, or is it just something that's like, it's just go ride your bike and spray it with Pledge, like the bike farmer would say. No, don't put Pledge on your bike. Please don't spray anything like Pledge, because I don't like spraying anything on bikes, because those little microparticles like to go into areas where they're not supposed to be, like brakes. I mean, you don't want any kind of smoother waxes or anything close to your brake system, so that's no good. Or degreasers, you do the whole hub and drivetrain. Well, that stuff's going to compromise those seals of the free hub body and the bottom bracket. And also, those pH levels, which I've been learning recently, is a little too harsh on some of those cleaners for your paint. So you'll clean your drivetrain, but you're totally going to shed all the clear coat or damage your paint around the chainstay areas and so forth. So be mindful of that. The conversation I had was very interesting. And that particular brand, the Bicycle Armor, is very unique niche. In other words, they just don't sell it. You have to be trained to use it to be able to have it. That's how intense this is. which kind of follows the auto industry. They're making that particular product only for detailing those particular either cars or bikes. The bike formula one is interesting because their claim is designed for those who sweat. You don't typically sweat on your car, right? And also other elements that are kind of ew factor, but like endurance riders, triathletes, and some other things get on your bike frame are just not normal. Like nobody just pees on their car. So those kind of pH, acidities and ammonias typically are not being subjected to current car ceramics. So that's where the kind of the pitch was very interesting. Like, oh, this is formulated to protect against that stuff. Ew. But yeah, I think, why. Tell me what you think. Watch this on replay. Put it in the comments below, kind of deal. And Susan from Canada, welcome back. Welcome back to the garage. 0 degrees, which would be 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So freezing. No snow for a chance. Go out for a ride. If it's sunny in your neck of the woods, go out for a ride. Yeah, nice. So I'm going to do a little I'm freaking out because I'm like, I'm in the car tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. So I got a whole laundry list of crap to do before I go to Vegas. And yeah, Vital Bike Chains. I'll have fun in Vegas. I'm bringing the family, so I won't have too much fun. I'm just kidding. I've aged out of that. Well, basically I have a reality check every maybe 6 months or once a year that I go a little too far, and I realize I'm not in my 20s or not even close to my 30s anymore. So the recovery rate is like 2 or 3 days, which I don't have time for that. So I usually don't get too carried away, but we'll have fun. I'm gonna visit a couple of shops out there. I'm gonna go to the bike show, go to the MBDA, listen to all those peoples and stuff, and just kind of be a fly on the wall and just try to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Although I've been part of the problem with some people. But anyway, we're going to have a good time. But yeah, thank you for chiming in and let me know. It's going to be fun in Vegas. It's going to be a good time. But yeah, we're going to do a little bonus couple minutes here on some industry news has dropped, numbers out of Taiwan. But before I do that, I need to, what do I need to do? I think I did the 2 promotions, so that's all good, right? Anyway, for a bike like this, if you're looking at like needing replacement wheels, we'll go back to that. And then I'm going to talk about Merida and Giant. Merida, which makes Specialized, related to numbers. So we'll talk about, I got to refresh my coffee. Be right back.
Wheel Warehouse in California has an excellent selection of wheels to choose from. They're pre-built, or also you can have them custom built up to various sizes. You can reach out to them directly if you have something unique like the 650 wheel or a different style hub. Therefore, it makes it an excellent bike wheel set company that actually provides good wheel sets without breaking the bank. You will find them being very trusted and true. They really hold up under a lot of different riding conditions and so forth. It takes the standard old school wheel building practices and puts them in a better format. In any case, this is a wheel set you'll be really love to have. It'll perform for you for a long period of time, and the quality and the attention to detail is superb. You'll find information about this company in the description below, with also my personal coupon code. I hope you find a good wheel set where it works for you.
So what we got going on? I timed that just perfectly. Just rolled up with my coffee. All right. So, well. See if I can find it here. So those are in the back, and this is like, bonus topic here. We're only going to do about 15 minutes on this. To lead into this, Taiwan, 3 major bike manufacturers, and they make not just their own brand, but various other brands, white labeling. Not necessarily white labeling. I'm sorry. They manufacture other bike brands with their own specifics, and they have people there, the whole thing, right? and they are for traded companies in Taiwan. And I did a story on this release last year on Giant and Specialized, which Merida produces Specialized bikes, and they also invested in, they still have an investment of 30% of the company, which was divulged last year on paper. So don't try to like they don't own them, they bought themselves back. Like, nope, they did not. Not 100% anyway. So today, just released from Brain Bicycle Dealer Association, their 13th release, which is scary. Giant and Ideal is the other brand or other manufacturer that produces a ton of bikes out of Taiwan. So they are Taiwan companies. They don't produce everything in Taiwan. They also have, like China, Giant has factories in China, and some of these other companies have factories in Vietnam, Cambodia, and various other places. So it's not just Taiwan, but they're a Taiwan company. So they released that the takeaway on this is, as they already had markets have shown, or actually the imports have shown that we're at their lowest import rate in the United States. In general, now it's even worse this year. They talk about the Giant's numbers, and they have a 15% decline over last year, the year before, from 24 to 25. So through last year, which was a very pivotal change in policies and economical downturn in the States, 15% is a very painful drop. Although they've had a 0.8% increase in their profit, but that doesn't really offset the negative overall income dollars amount. So a couple of these companies have better profit, but overall they're still down. So that is pretty significant. And why is that significant? The United States is one of the major importers from these brands. These brands do sell and produce bikes for global market. Giants go everywhere. Ideal makes the brands that go everywhere around the world, as well as Merida. And actually, a matter of fact, Merida, if you're in other than the United States, you see Merida bike line in Europe and also Asia and South America. We just don't have those in the States because they want the Specialized brand to be nutrition in the United States primarily. So Giant has a two-for painful heartache going on because they had human rights basically faux pas. In other words, there was this tobacco. I have a video of this in my library if you want a little more detail about it. A few months back, U.S. stopped any imports from Giant because they were violating human rights conditions within their manufacturing plant in Taiwan specifically. In other words, in Taiwan and foreign countries, they broker migrant workers and they broker those migrant workers to work in their plants. Well, the thing is they make the migrant worker pay for or owe indebted to the company. Therefore, I pretty much work for free-ish for the first certain section of their time working for that company. So this was a huge human rights violation that Giant said it fixed. There's a whole laundry list of issues, and they said they already addressed it, whatever, it doesn't matter. They actually shot the fire underneath Giant, and then they're dealing with that on top of slumping of sales. They're not the only one, though. The Merida, in proactive form, decided to release and go away of that practice of migrant workers. So there's another article in Brain here that relates to that too. And those other companies, not sure about Ideal that much. They're kind of more of a quieter, not as big as Merida and Giant, but they're getting up there as in dollars and so forth that make a lot of other brands. So they are reporting, Ideal is reporting, what was that percentage net loss of, where is it? 3%. So not nearly as bad, but they don't do nearly as high as volume. But when you're looking at Merida, 44% down from the year before. What was Giants? Let's go back up here. It was like in the 33%. So a huge chunk of the manufacturing, they're down. They're not getting contracts. Companies are not buying as many units. You're not going to see, and these are companies that make a lot of things, not just the bikes themselves, but they have sub plants that do wheels and components and so forth. Although there's a lot of companies that they get from, like Shimano, for example, or SRAM, go into those companies too. So that being said, with this huge, colossal train wreck of what's going on here in the States of consumer purchases and comfort, feeling good about buying anything, needless to say, that's definitely showing in the numbers of overseas importers. And okay, you might be on the cusp or the bandwagon of, well, we want to bring manufacturing in the United States. We don't want to be buying from them and all that. Whatever your political position on it is, that is not going to change. It's just they tried it. Cannondale and Trek have produced bikes well into the early 2000s, and they realized they cannot compete margin-wise with other companies that are producing bikes from out of the United States into the United States. They're still a United States company. And the thing is it's kind of baffling, especially for the cycling industry, because bike frames and forks, that's what distinguishes different brands from each other. They share a lot of the same componentry. Shimano, SRAM, different wheel companies make all the other 2/3 of the bike are pieced together globally from global different manufacturers. It's always been the case. To make from the beginning of rubbers to the cable ends to every part of the aspect of the bike in the United States hasn't been done since the 70s or even the 60s. And it's called the All-American or American model of Schwinn. And we just don't have the infrastructure and to do that. And to switch it to that does not make any dollars or cents to any of these companies. Fair enough, they'll do some things like assembly plants and so forth. Even companies like Guardian, which is basically the pain in the butt of the cycling industry right now, because they are trying to increase tariffs on all metals and steel into the United States, they are still going to be affected by it. So even they can't produce from end to end of the full manufacturing, and also vetting raw materials from the United States, which is utilizing our own resources, which is, I don't understand why. But in any case, does anybody want to go back to working in coal mines? No. Sorry, I diverged. But that is the state that we're in, and it's not going to change. And also, there's no demand. So, yeah, some brands have brought out some new stuff, like the Checkout from Trek, the full suspension gravel, and for sure Specialized has a few things and what have you. Campanella is bringing out like the 13-speed drivetrain and all that. They're trying to entice the 2% that actually are they're resistant to any kind of economical turmoil. They have money. They're trying to appease that market, which, I'm sorry, that's just not enough to keep these bike companies going. So what's going to happen? There's going to be a lot more debt for these companies to incur. They're going to streamline their product lines. They're going to start really looking into lower price point bikes, because that's the only opportunity they have right now, even though they may not make as much money, but it's better than making some money than no money at all at this point, because their $1,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 market is very much dead here in the States. So when you look at that, yeah, you might see some Treks that are start competing against the Ozark Trails from Walmart as in price point and being spec'd very similarly. I mean, come on, if Walmart can do it, can they do it too? And those bikes are made in Taiwan or China as well. So they can do it. And there's other brands out there that have done a little bit better job, like Poseidon Bikes. There's one company out of California. There's probably like 3 dudes or 3 people that work in the actual office there, but they're producing bikes that are under $1,000 for gravel. They've been doing it for several years. And there's several other companies that have been doing that too, which gravel is still one of the more popular ones. But in any case, Not talking about the whole e-bike thing. That's a whole different subset and a whole different can of worms and problems and also successes. But that's a whole, just in general bike market pieces where that's what the majority of the reporting is right now. Unfortunately, there's kind of a dark side or a blackout, if you will, of information of imports of e-bikes and classifications as in units and so forth, because the reporting is not, it has to be out there somewhere. But talking to Josh is like, there's a kind of a misconnect with actual, that's part of the cycling market, but yet it has not been embraced by the cycling market, although it's what it is. It's kind of, it's like, how do you can't base your company's business and directions and so forth on just a gut feeling. So a lot of those companies, they do have the numbers, but they're not sharing them. But that's going to change, or not being reported correctly, that kind of thing. I'd love to see a price war on entry level bikes. Well, the thing is, and this is how the disconnect in my perspective is, just give it a minute here to talk about this, is a lot of these companies, they chase the upper end carrot and they had successes with it. I can't deny that. And that's what kept on driving them to keep pushing the envelope to be more expensive. And they were selling quite a few units of $5,000 bikes. I mean, those, they were making more of a profit, and they just saw the gravy train on that, and they were leveraging it. Well, now unfortunately that's gone. So what they also abandoned the entry level bike completely. Even on the kids bikes, come on, like a $500 kids bike, they're gonna no. It's like and although there still is kind of a market where WOOM has moved in and taken up that market, and they're basic but solid bikes. They are a little more expensive, but they're designed to be handed down several times, so there's a value prop to that. Trek and Specialized and Giant are not saying anything. A lot of those have just cut their kids lines completely. You just destroyed your whole entry level point of your product branding right there. And in addition to it, they've done it to themselves. Some industry leaders have told me, like big companies have done it to themselves. This is one of the things they've done it to themselves by, because once they eliminated that entry level bike price point bikes, they basically don't give a brand recognition to that price point customer. Therefore, for example, prime example, somebody wants to get into road riding, they can't afford new. They don't have $1,500 to spend on the entry level road bike. They find me. They buy an $800 or a $500 road bike, and they're super happy. I do a little adjustment to it. I give them all the white glove service that most bike shops that should have been doing, or corporate shops that should have been doing, they've not been doing for decades. He has a great experience. He goes to ride that bike. Guess what? He gets really into it. He wants another bike. He wants to either get a gravel bike or a mountain bike, or maybe just the nicer quality bike. Do you think he's going to go look for other brands right out of the gate? He had such a good experience with that one brand, he's going to look for the same brand in a different model. Therefore, you have that brand recognition to the point where some people have gotten into Treks, or they've gotten into Specializes in the 90s, and they drank the Kool-Aid to their blue in the face that they will not, or they hate the other brand. Like, I remember Specialized, they were a competitor shop down the road, and the customers that rode Specialized hated Trek. We were a Trek dealer. I mean, they hated. I mean, it was like they had no real justification for it whatsoever. But in their head, for marketing, whoa. And in any case, it softened up over the decades from a little bit, but they still have that brand connection, right? So I deplore Trek and Specialized, if they ever want to compete and keep in the competitive market going forward, planting the seeds from 5 to 10 years down the road from here to become even closer to what they used to be, because they have so much big debt right now that they're just swimming in their eyeballs with creditors soon. But in any case, if they have any opportunity to bring in lower end price points, they'll cultivate a customer base or a community that will recognize with their brand when they're ready to get into the next level bike 3 to 5 years from now. Is that too late or too long for them? I don't know. You look at the wine industry, what I talked about before, or like the 15-year-old scotches. Like, man, that's some investment there, right? You got to be persnickety about it, and it's a persnickety market. got to really plant those seeds. So Trek is specialized, and some brands don't have a prayer of a chance of surviving this if they don't do some major changes of that direction, because they have to cultivate the new classification of cyclists, either through used and what have you. Although Trek is starting to do theirs through the Red Barn refresh, Trek bikes only on there, cultivating and advertising now their lower end price points and building up their inventory. So they see it, they're starting to leverage it. Maybe they watched me on YouTube and went, hey, that's a good idea. Maybe we should try that. Or they just looked at the damn numbers and went, oh, that actually makes sense. Yeah, it needs to get, we got it. Everybody gets to get down to KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. In any case, I got stuff to do. I carried over a little bit way too much long time. But yeah. Hey, they've improved profit for a year. That's right, King. There's been a lot of that. It got a lot of profit, but it's so low, it still doesn't pay the bills. Oh, that's right, Susan. That's right. I was just reading on that as the NVDA came out with the numbers on e-bikes and analog bikes, and they are neck and neck. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think I saw something like that. They're really pushing. It's a huge market, and as right as Josh at Precision Bike says, data matters. You got to make data-driven decisions, and that's the only way you're going to stay in business. Now data needs to be shared, and that's the other thing too. In any case, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope it's nice in your neck of woods. You're able to get out and do some riding. Those peeps in Colorado, be safe. Be mindful of the smoke that's in here. We're supposed to have winds again today, so I might push that smoke out so make it a little bit clearer. But in any case, yeah, I will. Well, we'll see if I'll be here next Friday. I won't be here. I'll still try to present a show if I'm not traveling next Friday. But on Tuesday, I'm so hoping to try to do the Shop Talk Tuesday. We'll see. And because that's right in the middle of NBDA, the meeting, maybe I'll just pop out and hang out in the hallway and do my thing, and people will stare at me weirdly as I'm talking to myself. So weird. It's different when I'm in the garage because nobody's seeing me, but I'm out in public and like, what the hell is that wackadoodle just chattering to his laptop? In any case, I hope you guys have a great time. Thank you for hanging out with me in the garage. Yeah, I got some gems. Just finished this one. That Schwinn is going to be fun to feature. Might save out until I get back. I'm starting to get limited on time. But yeah, the repairs have been crazy. Starting to filling up through March and April. So hopefully we can just get people out there riding their bikes and the weather's good for them, and healthier, mental state healthier and all that. And keep in mind, you never know what everybody else is going through at the time. So either you're a customer or a retailer, please take a hot minute and put yourself in other people's shoes. And we're all in this together, and we are a cycling community. So thank you for chiming in. Thank you for being a part of this community. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to share this within your cycling groups or whatever. That's fine. And my supporters, Vital Bike Chains and Buskell Wheel Warehouse, and also Contito Road, which I'm going to do a promo on the chain of Connex. So if you're looking for German steel chains, Connex is made by Whippleman. They've been around for over 100 years, high quality. I'm working with, going to work with them a little bit more. So yeah, they're brands that I feel like they have a heart and soul, and that's where it's a better connect with me, because I feel like I have a heart and soul in the cycling industry. You can find links below in the description, or you can go to knowaguybicycles.com, and I have a preferred or trusted partner page for them. In any case, thanks again for hanging out with me. And yeah, let's learn about Connex chains and their revolutionary, actually, it's not new, chain link. And as mechanics, this is a warning. Mechanics, do not use a chain tool on these when you get them in your shop. You got to be able to identify this link because you'll damage the link. And it's a cool link, so you don't need a tool, and you should not use a tool. But anyway, here's a little educational piece for you.
Chain links. Don't mess these up. They are definitely a revolutionary change in link systems for bicycle chains. But you need to know a couple things about these before you actually install them or take them off a bike. Let's review. First thing you need to know is these chain links are reusable, and they also could be used on Shimano and SRAM chains. So if you want a reusable, which they don't claim theirs are, chain links that are removable, this is the ticket for you. The second thing you need to know is you do not need to use a tool, nor should you ever use a tool to install or take these off. Pretty simple. Put the link in with the bubble side down, then you do the other link here. Once you get them together, fold the chain up, slide into place, and your link is there. If you use a chain tool on this, you will damage this link, so keep the tool away. No. Then you put the chain in, which is really great for chains to be clean easily, also for re-waxing. You will find these links on all of their chains from single speed to 12 speed. Just make sure the Connex link is on there, even their pre-waxed chains as well. You can also buy them as an aftermarket for your current Shimano SRAM or a backup link to put in your pack. In any case, these are one of those mind-blowing link systems which, like all bikes, should have anyway. Hopefully you found good insights on this particular chain link from Connex, and if that works for something for you, all the better. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. If it's nice in your neck of woods, please go for a ride.
The importer from them in the United States is a Contito Road, and you'll find that link below. That's where you can find all the Connex chains there. And yeah, those links are pretty slick. But in any case, they can, for somebody who wants to re-wax or clean your dry chain, that kind of thing is a win-win. But anyway, I'm sure I've damaged a few a few years back before I knew what they were. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to at least your takeaway is you identify that little heart-shaped Connex link, and if it's on, it could be on a Shimano SRAM or Campanile chain. You keep it in mind, and it's super easy to do. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm trying to figure out what I need to get done. I think I have one more repair I need to try to get done before I start packing. And yeah, I hope I have some great content. I'm kind of excited because I'll be in a room with a whole bunch of other bike shops. And granted, I still think of myself not a bike shop, but I am. I'm a garage shop guy, and I used to be, that particular business used to be frowned upon quite a bit within the cycling industry, but now it's really more accepted because that's where a lot of us had to divert to because rent's too expensive. But in any case, or business fail, and that's where bike mechanics end up. In any case, thanks again for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend again, and I hope to have some great stuff coming Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe all the days. Maybe I'll just do a crazy live stream. I mean, come on, the MBDA is right off of Fremont Street. That can't go wrong at all, can it? You don't know Fremont Street in Las Vegas. You don't know what you're missing. Or maybe you do and you just don't want to see it. That's fine. That's a whole new level of crazy. Awesome. Oh yeah, thanks everybody in the chat. It had been 1981. Thank you for listening in. King 7, same to you. 65 Bug Night. Love seeing you in the chat as well. Susan, as well as also Josh at Position E-Bike. You guys are all great. And Bill from Vital Bike Chains. Such appreciated for your support. And I hope we all have a really good season and mental health rides going forward. And yeah, if you like the design on the screen right now, I do have t-shirts in the shop shelf below. Coffee mugs, hats, whatever. It's a passive income way of supporting my channel. In any case, everybody have a wonderful day.